There's a lot to do this time of year. Gift buying, party planning, decorating, baking. We all try to make the holidays magical, but combined with our other daily responsibilities, it can lead to a lot of stress.
I think we come in with this idea of what it should look like and how we want things to play out. And you know what the reality is? It's probably not going to be exactly what we have in our minds.
Today on Mom Squad, we talk about how to reduce stress levels in a healthy way for a very happy holiday season. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Mom Squad. This is the show where we talk all things parenting. I'm Maureen Kyle, and I'm going to guess you're in the middle of the holiday rush. Shopping, baking, planning, wrapping, all of it can really stress us out. But today we're going to talk about how to approach these next few weeks to make sure that they are the happiest time of the year, not the time of the year that we sprout a few more gray hairs. Okay, so we're going to try. Joining me today is my colleague and mom friend, Danielle Wiggins. Thanks so much for sitting and chatting with me about this.
Yes, love to.
Are you stressed out yet?
Well, not yet, because I haven't really started doing anything.
Oh my gosh, you're stressing me out by saying that.
I just haven't. And it was just like, well, I can't get it done yet. And like you said, don't sprout any more gray hairs.
Yeah.
That's what you have hair dye for.
Yeah, there you go. What is it that you think stresses you out the most? I mean, you're obviously like doing all of the stuff in December. I started back in October just so I wouldn't get stressed out. And people operate differently.
I have bought a gift. Because it was you. You were like, hey, Danielle, here's the sale.
Yeah,
and I said, okay, that's my first gift that I bought.
Yeah.
And so I haven't.
Yeah.
But really the thing that stresses me out the most is finances, because we've already told our kids who are 11 and 14, this is going to be a slimmed down Christmas, because this summer we're doing a big trip to Mexico to support my brother who is renewing his vows.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be pretty pricey, and I don't want to go into debt in Christmas time because we have to pay for this big trip where we're taking the kids for the first time out of the country.
Yeah. Do you feel like the holidays have to be perfect? Like, are you the type that, you know, sees a picture and you're like, oh, I want my house to look like that, or I want the gifts to look like this all wrapped, or anything like that?
I would love to, but then the finances say, sorry, you're gonna have to go budget B plan.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would love it to be that way, but you know, I have to be realistic and say, this is what I'm willing to spend on the holidays, and I just have to deal with whatever that price is gonna get me.
Yeah. I know, like, I know for myself and for a lot of my friends, I host, so I'm looking around the house going, oh, is this decorated the right way? You know, it's all my family. What am I stressing about? It's just them. But I do stress about, like, okay, did I get the right gift? My kids are young enough that, like, they're asking Santa for a different gift every week, so there's the stress of that. And just, you think you have all this time in December, and then you look at the calendar and you're going, oh my gosh, like, I have to have it done like tomorrow.
Don't forget about adding work into it.
Yes.
Like, so for you and I, we work a morning show and we're waking up in the middle of the night, but most moms, or they're working a 9 to 5 and they have to do different things, or even people who work from home or stay-at-home moms. It's like, there's a lot of things to get done. You have the kids' Christmas concerts, Hanukkah, whatever it is. They have their musicals that you have to support. They have
forgot about those.
Sports and all different types of things. You have your church events. And so it's a very busy time.
It is a very busy
It's very stressful. It is.
It is, but there is a way to just approach it very even keel. And so I got a chance to sit down with Dr. Adam Borland. He is a clinical psychologist with Cleveland Clinic, and we talk about what stresses us out the most and also how to handle it. So this is the time of year where stress just mounts. Why is it that around the holidays, it should be, you know, the happiest time of year, and then we get so stressed out?
You're right. This is a very stressful time of year. And I think it begins with the fact that we put so much pressure on ourselves, and there's such anticipation for the fact that this is building up for the entire year. And I think we come in with this idea of what it should look like and how we want things to play out. And you know what the reality is? It's probably not going to be exactly what we have in our minds. And that's where it's up to us to be flexible and to manage our symptoms.
I mean, I think everybody wants to go into the holidays with this Norman Rockwell painting idea of what their house is going to look like, and the family is going to be super happy. Is it a matter of lowering our expectations, or can we still aim for perfection? And then how do we get okay with not perfect?
I don't think it's necessarily about lowering our expectations. I think it's about going into it saying, you know what, there's only certain things that I have control over. I know that based on past experiences, there are certain family members that may cause stress, and I don't really have much control over that. But what I do have control over, and I have a choice, is how do I respond to that? And I can establish boundaries. If somebody's talking about a topic that I don't particularly want to talk about, I can say that. I can say, this is not something that I choose to talk about. And if I need to, I can remove myself from the situation. And that's okay, to give ourselves that the grace to take a step away.
Would you say that family is one of the biggest stressors this time of year?
Family is absolutely probably number one, the biggest stressor that people comment on and worry about as the holidays approach.
So how do you go and have conversations with families? I know a big stress for a lot of people, it's like the boundaries, of setting, we're going to be with this side of the family here. We're going to, do dinner with this side of the family at this point. And then that's when fights ensue. How do you open up communication and set some of those boundaries and expectations?
Yeah, I think it's about going in with a plan. Again, remembering that it's not going to be perfect, that there may be that individual that in the past has been stressful and has caused kind of a visceral reaction within you, and recognizing, again, I can't change them. And I don't have to spend my entire evening or day, talking to them. I can be cordial and then kind of move on. And that's okay. That's just fine. Giving ourselves the ability to say, I only have so much control.
Right. I was just having this conversation with somebody, how you cannot control what somebody else says, but you can control your reaction. But that's really difficult. It's really difficult to keep your calm, keep your cool, and then react in that situation. So when we feel our blood boiling, whether it's a conversation or somebody has an expectation that we can't meet, do you have any advice on how to calm down in that moment and keep a straight head?
I would always return to deep breathing. That's a wonderful way to kind of recenter ourselves. Focus on our breathing and say to yourself, you know what, there's nothing I can really do in this situation, so I'm going to monitor how I'm responding. And like I said before, if you need to remove yourself from the situation, that's okay. Take a step outside, get some fresh air. If there's someone in the family or whomever it is that you're with, pull them aside and kind of recenter yourself. If you need to, kind of joke about something that you overheard someone else say, find an ally in that time. There's no set rules for this, but just understand that it is stressful for everyone. So
aside from family, what would you say is the second biggest stressor?
Well, again, I think it's the expectations that we put on ourselves. As you said earlier, this idea of kind of a Norman Rockwell image, frankly, is likely not going to happen. The idea that I'm going to get that perfect present for someone, that there's going to be harmony the entire weekend. A lot of times we're surrounded by people that we don't spend all that much time with throughout the year. And then there's this expectation that when we get together, there's just going to be peace and harmony. But, that's not always the case.
What can we do throughout the next couple of weeks that you recommend to reduce stress?
Yeah, I think number one, it's about practicing gratitude. Recognizing the good things in life, recognizing that we have the opportunity to get together, because not too long ago during the pandemic, that wasn't an option. Really taking time for self-care. That is not selfish. Oftentimes people misconstrue the two. Exercise, take walks, whatever it is that you find helpful as a means of self-care. And again, just remembering that it's not going to be perfect. And sometimes good enough is fine.
So it's okay to go and spend money on a massage this time of year.
Not
Doctor's
only is it
orders.
okay, but I would recommend it. If that's something that you know helps you, then by all means do it.
Also, in terms of like healthy eating, I mean, we've talked about this a million times, especially on this show, on how to make sure you're eating healthy, but what we put in our bodies, does that have an effect, would you say, especially this time of year we're having, you know, kind of indulgent foods? Does that does that lead to even more stress? Do we get more stressed out in any way?
Sure, this time of year, there's an abundance of sugar and carbs and potential alcohol usage, and sure, that can certainly affect our moods. So I would recommend going into it with a plan. You say to yourself, I'm not going to just exist solely on sugar and on unhealthy things, but I'll find a balance. I'll allow myself a treat here and there, but remembering that as in any situation, when we go to an excessive point, that can cause problems. So it comes down to moderation.
Now, I think this is something easy to say, oh, okay, yeah, I'll just, I'll get out, I'll take a walk, I'll make sure that I'm leading a healthy lifestyle. But then shopping happens and there's kids concerts and the schedule gets jam packed and then families start calling and it just seems to pile up. When you feel that overwhelming sensation of a lot of burden on your shoulders, and now you don't have time to take a walk because you got to run here, what are some of the little things that you can do that only take like a few minutes? You mentioned deep breathing, but is there anything else that would really kind of help center our mental state?
Yeah, we have to carve out that time. If we're just imagining that it will just create itself, I think we all know that there's just our days are completely jam-packed with details. So we have to carve out that time and again allow ourselves that time. Exercise, creative outlets, whatever it is that will help kind of center you, we have to prioritize it. When it comes down to something like shopping, just remembering that you're not the only one that's stressed in this situation. When you go to a store and you see that the line is a mile long, remember that nobody wants to be in that line, that this is stressful for everyone. And it's kind of like we're all in this together.
Yeah, that's so true. What are some signs that, holidays, there's all sorts of studies that have led up to, in the holidays are a time that some people go into a little bit more depression, whether it's because they've lost a loved one or just the burden of all of the stressors and responsibilities. But do you see that this is a time when more people realize that maybe they have depression issues?
Yeah, this can obviously be a very difficult time for people. The loss of a close family member or a friend, and recognizing that person isn't around this year to celebrate, and maybe that was someone who played a big role in the holidays. So you really want to monitor recognizable mood changes. Is someone just kind of seeming sadder than usual? Are they seeming more anxious? Are they pulling away from meaningful relationships and kind of isolating themselves? We also have to take into account, weather dynamics, the lack of sunlight this time of year. It's very easy for people to hibernate. So really maintaining those lines of communication with loved ones. If you start to recognize it in yourself, taking that opportunity to reach out to someone and just kind of say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. And I hope that we can talk about it. And I hope that, you can be a source of support for me. It can be hard to ask for help, but it's so important, especially this time of year.
What about some of the people who know that they struggle with depression or know that they struggle with anxiety? Because this can be a really overwhelming time when, if somebody's afraid of getting sick, they have anxiety about that. We're getting together for the first time in a couple of years, or, there might be some social situations. If somebody already struggles with some of those issues, how do you think they should approach the next few weeks?
allowing themselves to be patient, kind of treating themselves the way that they would treat a loved one who was going through something like this. So making sure that they're communicating with people that they love and support, recognizing, this in the past has been a difficult time, and making sure that they're doing the best that they can to engage in activities that they find helpful, that they find relaxing and comforting. And remembering that things can change and they can improve. It might be small incremental changes, but change is possible.
And I think my final question goes back to what we even started talking about, of like that expectations. Have you seen social media having an impact on, because that's what I'm thinking of. Like, it's not even the Norman Rockwell painting anymore. It's the, I scroll through Instagram and I see how it seems like everybody else's gifts are wrapped perfectly with, some sort of decoration on them, or the cookie baking has already started. Is it healthy to get away from social media this time of year?
Yeah, we know the role the social media plays in our lives, and yes, I think it's always important to monitor when you're scrolling through and you're seeing those Norman Rockwell pictures, remembering that that's exactly what people want. That's why they're posting it, because it is this idyllic, perfect picture, but remembering that that's not necessarily reality. Everyone's dealing with their own stress.
Right.
So yes, I'm an advocate of always monitoring how much social media you're taking in, especially this time of year, because it's so easy to negatively compare ourselves to what we see others posting.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Borland, those are all my questions. Anything else you think we should know when it comes to just holiday stress, managing it, what we can do?
Try and have a sense of humor. It can really be helpful. I've worked with my patients in the past to just kind of approach it like they were watching a sitcom, and where would the laugh track be? That family member makes a comment that seems kind of off the wall, that's where the laugh track would be. And so in your head, just kind of saying, wow, that's kind of funny, and I'm going to approach it with a sense of humor and a sense of levity.
And I think that was the best piece of advice that he gave throughout that entire interview. Approaching your life thinking like, okay, where's that laugh track going to be? Where can I laugh about what's happening? And I have a funny sister who actually writes for sitcoms. So she does point out all of these different places where we can laugh about it. But we both still get stressed out.
Right.
I mean,
it's hard to laugh in the moment, but then
Mm-hmm.
when you look back, it's like, remember when I stressed out about all of this, or when mom did this, or dad did this, or cousin Jimmy did that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think people get so worked up about, some of the comments made, especially with the political landscape that we've had over the past couple of years. But I might have told the story before in front of, our work group. As a kid, like, we would go chop down our own tree. We went to a Christmas tree farm. They handed my dad the saw that was basically like dental floss, and we like pick out our tree, and there we are, like carrying the tree. And he would put the tree on the top of the car. And one of our traditions every year, he'd take a corner, and the tree would like fall off the top of the roof, which he'd get all upset about, and we would laugh.
That was a tradition?
That was a tradition. We would be like, here it comes. Here comes the turn. We're going to lose the tree. And then it would like fall off. And he's like, but like, we look back, and now we're laughing about it.
Right.
So, I mean, those things that go wrong, or the things that aren't perfect, are the things that we're going to laugh about years from now. Like, remember when,
it's
like,
interesting
turkey
you
got
say
dry
that,
or whatever.
because in 2020, not the Christmas season, but let's just say Thanksgiving, like
Right.
ushered in the holiday season. And so we were in the midst of COVID and no vaccines then yet.
Yes.
So we were like, oh, okay, we're going to do Thanksgiving for the first time. And I was like, okay, I'm going to cook this whole Thanksgiving dinner myself. And my goodness, I had to work every day too. So I will cook each and every day. And when I got home, the turkey was burnt.
No.
Yes, because I was like, my husband, you wed one job, watch the turkey.
Yeah.
And I blew up, ruined the whole Thanksgiving because it sort of meant something to me. Like,
Yeah.
I could be successful at cooking Thanksgiving. And then if you burn a turkey, I feel like that I felt like a failure.
Right.
I mean, we laugh about it now, but at the time it was so stressful. And I had to sit down and say, well, this is what the turkey meant to me. You know? And my husband's like, it's just a turkey.
Yeah.
We have ham too,
And
so
now-
we can eat that. But now we're laughing about it.
Yeah.
So but it was extremely stressful at the time.
Yeah.
So maybe when you're in situations and you're getting stressed, you're like, hey, next year I'll be laughing about this.
Right. Actually, this brings up, okay, one more before we talk about a different subject, but every year, and it stemmed from a disaster, but every year my sisters and I have a contest of who's gonna ruin Christmas. We joke like, okay, who's gonna ruin Christmas this year? Because one year, long time ago, but now this is back in style, but like, remember like the velour zip-ups with the tracksuits?
Yes.
And my mom was shopping.
They went out of style? I never knew that.
Danielle's been wearing hers for a long time. But my mom looked at one and said, oh, do you think your sister will like that? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I think she'd like purple. And she opened it up and she started laughing, but then she started crying she was like, why would you think I'd like this? I look like Barney. Like, so she started crying about it. And we were all laughing at her for crying about the gift. And so now we said, and I was like, oh, I ruined Christmas. And so we have a contest of like, okay, who's going to ruin Christmas? Not in a bad way, just like, who's going to make that big mistake or who's going to show up late and like the domino effect happens. So that is actually like one of the most endearing parts of the holidays for me.
I think everything is so sentimental. Like you're like, I'm just buying a gift.
Right.
But it means so much to somebody else. Like, you know, like your sister will probably be like, why would you think I like this? Do you know me? You're my family. You don't even know me. And so that's where the stress sort of piles on too, because you're like, what are other people's expectations of me?
Yes.
So let me make sure that I lower the expectation, or I just ask you, is this okay? Would you like, would you like this? Or give me a list of 5 things that you would like, and I'll get one from the list.
And you mentioned pile on, and I think that's the issue with family dynamics is that this isn't anything new if, you know, a certain family member says something inappropriate at a holiday. You know, it's usually that they've said a million other inappropriate things and you've already gotten mad. You're going in with like certain beefs with your family members, and
that
then
you haven't worked out from Thanksgiving or last holiday season.
Right, so it's taking a deep breath like Dr. Borland said. And then the other thing that, you know, he mentioned, and you saw that I kept asking, okay, well, what else can we do? And he mentioned taking a moment to breathe, but also scheduling that self-care. And one of the reasons I kept asking him questions about that is it's so easy to say, oh, I'm just going to, you know, oh, I'll have to schedule self-care, no problem, I'll go for a massage today. But when you've already overspent your budget and you don't have time because you have to make all these things happen, I think finding time for self-care is very important. I think it does have to be scheduled, but do we ever do it?
I mean, you have to make it a priority. And the thing about it is, you know me, I'm always, how much does it cost? Okay. Got financial goals over here.
Right.
No, but for me, you know, one of the things that I know that centers me, I was talking to someone yesterday and I said, you have to flush all the negativity out. Flush it out. And so for me, I like to journal and I like to just sit by myself. I already wake up earlier than everybody because of the schedule that we work. And so for like an hour or two, I'll just sit and I'll journal. I'll write like my stresses. I'll write what I'm upset about. I sort of write letters to God. That's my journal. Like, this person said this to me, and it gets it all out and it flushes the system. And then sometimes I just sit and I sit in front of the fireplace and just kind of think and meditate and read and just get that quiet center. And that doesn't cost anything. And I notice that when I do that, then I'm a much better person. Or if I go for long periods without doing that, I was just thinking yesterday, like, oh, my mind is on attack. It's attacking me, you know, telling me, I was like, okay, I haven't had my flushy time in recently. So I think that's one of the ways for me that, you know, you do self-care. So a lot of times, again, this is a hard time, and inflation, stuff costs a lot of pressures. And so what are those free things that you can do to make yourself feel better. Take a bath or whatever it is.
I love that idea. It's very therapeutic. I mean, to like write your thoughts down and really think about how you're feeling. That is, I didn't even think of that. Here I am like, I don't know, take a bath. I don't know, like, or do I read a book? But you're right. It's the free things, like the taking the walk, recentering yourself with nature. You have a dog this year for the first time for a holiday. You're going to be out in the cold, you know, but I have a lot of friends who do take winter nature walks because they found that they were getting stressed out with it getting dark so early, and they felt like they weren't getting daylight. But one friend in particular, she always struggled with the seasonal affective disorder, and she realized once she just got out in nature and didn't fight it, then she found this whole new therapy that is for free. I mean, you can just get out and walk.
Because I always say, like, you know, a lot of times there's family issues or family drama where you're like, oh, I gotta see Auntie such and such, or oh, I gotta see this person. And a lot of times you can't control how the other person is going to act or what they're going to say to you, but you can control yourself, and you can control how you are going to respond. And so it's really putting in that work to make sure that you respond well.
Yeah, and then he also mentioned, and I think you're gonna be good to talk about this too, because we talked about, you know, how sometimes this time of year can be depressing for a lot of people because they're missing a loved one. And even since I've done that interview, I got an email from our church saying that there is a therapy group or like a meeting for anybody who is struggling with grief and loss this holiday season. And it hit me like there's probably resources that, I mean, I know I didn't realize were out there, and they find you. But if that's something that stresses you out this time of year, especially if you know, you've had a recent passing of a loved one, or maybe there's a relationship change this year and you're grieving that,
or anything,
divorce,
any
a
type of
separation.
loss.
Yeah, that I didn't even think, you know, there are groups that you could probably find and get some support groups. So
yeah, you need that healing. You need that, like I said, that flushing, or just really talking about what's really bothering you so you can try to enjoy the season as best as possible. And if you have or if you did just lose a loved one, have your expectations. Like, I'm not going to be Holly Jolly Mary or something. And, you know, just say, hey, this is a hard time for me. And, you know, I'm not going to stay low, but give yourself that time to grieve. And grieve in a healthy manner. Whatever that means to you.
And as we talked about too, if social media is a trigger, because, you know, I'm looking at, oh gosh, well, they are decorated. My house doesn't look like that. Or like, oh,
look at all those gifts they have under the tree. I don't know what they do. How do they afford that?
Or they went to that, you know, event and we didn't. You know, it's like comparing yourself this time of year can be really difficult. I saw a friend go, see you in January, and it made me think, like, I wonder if that's one less stress to like not compare yourself or, you know, your holiday traditions to somebody else's holiday traditions.
Or you get the family pictures, you know, in the mail, the Christmas cards in the mail all the time. And if your family isn't on the up and up, then that could be a pressure point as well. I was looking through my phone this morning. I was like, should I take the most awkward photos from our year, because we didn't get the pretty family photo this year. So maybe I'll just take the most ridiculous ones where we all have our eyes closed and send that one out. Someone did that. I think it was the year 2020. And it was like my favorite Christmas card. It was kind of like, this is what the year looks like. And I was like, I texted them, I said, this is the best Christmas card I ever got. And it was just the craziness of their family.
And so there's a lesson right there. Just being real and being realistic with yourself. I think that's the biggest way to approach this. Danielle, always good to talk to you.
Always love to talk.
I always love Danielle's advice. She's centered. And thanks to all of you for watching. So next week, we are going to talk about staying healthy. We're going to chat with 2 doctors from the CDC and AMA about how to avoid the germs this holiday. Fingers crossed. No one wants to be knocked out with a virus instead of going to the family gatherings, no matter how much drama is ensued. All right. Well, we will see you right back here next time on Mom Squad.